Time Studio, presented by Greenland Laminates. Today was day 7 of the winter session of Parliament. For the last 1 week, we've seen multiple adjournments and business taking a hit. Key legislations that were scheduled to be tabled and discussed couldn't be done for a week because opposition members of Parliament raised slogans, jumped into the well of the House or walked right out, leading to adjournments in both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Well, the opposition says that the onus falls on the central government to ensure that the House functions. Now, the Parliament is often called a temple of democracy. It carries with itself the symbolism of being sacred. It's a place where our representatives raise issues that are important to us, the voter, the very people that put them there. They are therefore honor-bound to use every minute of their time to ensure that our interests are safeguarded. But sadly, we saw our MPs letting us down at least for the last 1 week until today. This despite the centre holding an all-party meeting before the session as per the norm and calling for consensus. The Prime Minister too, on multiple occasions, even before this session began, called for constructive dialogue in the Parliament. But what finally broke the logjam seems to be the meeting with Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla yesterday. All stakeholders were met and consensus was built that House needs to function. What else also perhaps gave way to this breakthrough was the divide within the opposition. We'll get into that in just a bit, but first let me tell you why these disruptions are more than just a waste of time. They're a waste of resources. Every day that's lost in the Parliament puts the nation back in terms of resources, precious taxpayer money. As per 2012 data released by the then Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, it costs about 2.5 lakhs per minute to run the Parliament. Usually, one session of the Parliament runs about 360 minutes. That means 9 crores that's spent per day. Apart from this, there's basic pay of every MP that's given out. That's about 1 lakh per month. The added expenditure of 5 lakh 43,000 on a monthly basis. It comes to about 18 lakh 10,000 per day for all MPs included. In addition to that, members of Parliament are also entitled to an additional allowance of about 2,000 rupees per day. The total of all MPs put together, that would come up to 10 lakh 86,000. This is just for Lok Sabha MPs. Now, the approximate minimum cost of a day of parliamentary disruptions comes to about 9.28 crore per day. We've lost at least 7 days. November 25th is when the winter session began. So while the country lost crores in that washout, opposition parties were trying to find common ground on the issues they wanted to raise. Cracks in the India Bloc were out in the open. Especially today, the Congress found its key allies missing from protests outside the Parliament complex. Congress MPs, some of its allies, led by Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi, staged a protest at Makardwar, which is right outside the Parliament. But Trinamool Congress and Samajwadi party's absence was conspicuous. The opposition parties are indeed divided over their Parliament strategy. Each of them is pushing for a different set of agenda. These differences are leading to a lack of cohesion, many would say, within the opposition, complicating their ability to present a unified front as far as this session goes. Now, here's a breakdown of at least what the three major parties want to focus on: the Congress, the Samajwadi Party and the TMC. The Congress wants to discuss crony capitalism. They have been addressing these concerns over the influence of business elites on governance. Their protests have been mainly focused on the Adani issue. We saw that protest happen today outside the Parliament as well. The same protest where both the SP and the TMC were not present. Discussing constitutional matters is also something that the Congress wants. It's related to the protection or amendments of the Constitution. Yesterday, when Om Birla met with all stakeholders, the government also came out and assured that a discussion would be done on the Constitution, given that we're marking 75 years this time around. That's earmarked for next week. Manipur violence is also something that the Congress wants to raise. It wants to call the attention of the ongoing violence in the state. On the other hand, the TMC wants the focus not so much on this crony capitalism and the Adani issue, but concerns over inflation, over rising prices that impact the Aam Aadmi. The discussion on lack of adequate housing and financial resources specifically for Bengal is what the TMC wants to focus on. They also want to focus on the violence in Manipur, pretty much on the same lines as the Congress party. Now, the Samajwadi Party wants to discuss mainly the Sambal issue, the violence that broke out on the 24th of November over a survey at a mosque that was ordered by a court. The Samajwadi Party says all of this was pre-planned violence. They want registration of murder cases against senior police officers as well. That's a demand Akhilesh Yadav made on the floor of the House today. They're advocating for an investigation into this violence under the supervision of the Supreme Court. They also want to focus on the ongoing violence in Manipur. So Manipur seems to be the one common ground that all these parties have. Now, the India Bloc is facing growing discontent over this strategy, specifically because the Congress wants to focus on the Adani issue, much to the disappointment, so to say, of its allies. Is this a major stumbling block as far as opposition unity is concerned, especially as this alliance attempts to present a collective opposition to the government? Now, the opposition parties within the India Bloc are not aligned on one single agenda apart from Manipur, with each party pushing its own set of issues. They have their own states to think of, and they want those local issues to also be raised, as in case of Samajwadi Party and the TMC. But if they do not have a clear united front, could that mean edge BJP or the NDA or the central government in both houses of parliament? The opposition's ability to effectively pressure the government perhaps will be compromised then. One of the most significant points of contention within the India Bloc is the disparity between regional issues and broader national concerns. TMC is deeply focused on state issues. They want to talk about funding, they want to talk about development of Bengal, of what they claim is stepmotherly treatment of the central government to the state of West Bengal. In contrast, the Congress wants to prioritize national issues. They want to talk about constitutional safeguards, about corruption, about unemployment. So even as we see now the parliament function, is the opposition in complete disarray? And if it is, has the Congress been asked to back off from at least this one agenda if they want a cohesive, united opposition? Are the allies then losing confidence in the grand old party? We open that up.
ममता बनर्जी कांग्रेस बता दे कहाँ हरा दिया है। हम तो बंगाल में जब जब आके दीदी और दीदी जो उन्होंने करना शुरू किया, उसके बाद से जो मुंह की खानी शुरू की तो सीट बढ़ती ही चली गई। तो स्वाभाविक है उनको होना चाहिए, जो लीडर में ताकत है उसको आगे होना चाहिए।
That's a good joke.
संभल जो इसलिए जाना जाता था कि भाईचारे के साथ वहाँ रहते हैं लोग, लेकिन अचानक ये जो घटना हुई है, ये सोची समझी रणनीति के तहत वेल प्लान्ड हुआ है और वहाँ के भाईचारे को गोली मारने का काम हुआ है।
ये हरास, निराश, हताश, ये बेमेल गठबंधन है और जो उद्देश्य विहीन है।
Let's open this up. RP Singh, national spokesperson of the BJP, joins us. Mahima Singh, spokesperson of the Congress. Professor Manojit Mandal, a political analyst leaning towards the TMC. And Karan Verma, author, joins us on this broadcast as well. Mahima Singh, let me begin by asking you. The TMC today says that Mamata Banerjee should be made the face of the India Bloc because the TMC under Mamata Banerjee can look after interests of the opposition alliance far better than the Congress would.
Jai Hind. In fact, Poonam, the question of the day that the whole country is asking, and rather the world that is looking towards us today when we stand on number one in terms of peddling lies as per certain studies, is why and what has taken this government so long, the speaker so long, to come on a meeting ground with the Congress party and with the opposition, the India Bloc. Why has the speaker not been acknowledging the notices after notices being filed by the Congress party, by the opposition parties, by the Honorable LOP, Shri Rahul Gandhi? Why is this government in this denial mode, in this ignorance mode? So that is the important question that needs to be asked today. You are asking me, in fact, I was listening to your report and you said that, you know, that the words that have been used were actually quite appalling. Because I believe that we, of course, you see, we are a federal democracy, and the leaders of various regional parties have issues in their respective states to attend to. While we, being a central party and, you know, focusing on national issues rather, are staging protests out of the parliament. I don't think there has been any verbal opposition as you were mentioning in your story. And I think it would be very wrong to sort of conclude anything like that.
There has been. TMC and
I should-
Samajwadi Party leaders have come out on record and said that we don't want to focus on the Adani issue as much as the Congress does because we want other issues to be raised as well. All of the last 1 week was washed out because there were adjournments, because there was sloganeering happening over a discussion and debate over the Adani issue, led by the Congress party, was there not?
Poonam, the last whole week was washed out at behest of the BJP, at behest of this so-called double-engine government, because this government has refused to listen to the opposition. If you listen to Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee carefully, late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he used to say, "Kabhi kabhi mujhe walk out karna padta tha sune jane ke liye." But now it seems that walking out of the house has become the norm for the opposition to be heard, to place its issues on record, because this government just refuses, simply refuses. Much in advance, notices were issued to this government by the Honorable President of our party, by the Honorable LOP in the Parliament, Shri Rahul Gandhi ji. But this government and Mr. Speaker actually refused to acknowledge, let alone refused to entertain, but refused to acknowledge those notices. And let me say that Sambhal has become such a central issue, of course. So the Samajwadi Party is rightful in saying that we need to pay attention to Sambhal issue while we are paying attention to Adani. They have never said that we don't want to stand upon Adani issue.
Why were they not there with you at that protest then this morning?
But in the meanwhile, Poonam, one by one, Sambhal, then Ajmer, and God only knows what is coming next. Because this party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, is behaving as if unemployment, inflation, women's security, all the issues are out of its way now, and that it can focus on the curiosities about places of worship. So the opposition, India, is united, and we respect the federal structure of this country. So we will focus on issues strategically as and when required.
Absolutely, and every party is well within their rights to do so, which is what I said right at the start of my show as well, that certain parties want to focus on certain issues and they're well within their rights to do so. But my question to you was very specific about the demand that's come to the fore from the TMC about Mamata Banerjee being made the face of this bloc. But let me get in RP Singh as well. RP Singh, if you heard what the Congress had to say.
Yes. Can I make a request?
Yes.
Before you talk to me, please ask Mr. Mandal about the Mamata Banerjee's stand on all these issues also.
Sure.
Then I'll come.
I wanted to come to you because the Congress says the only reason we've seen a washout in the last 1 week is because the BJP is ensuring the House doesn't function. But Monojit Mandal?
No, I think my good friend Mr. RP Singh has taken over the charge of anchoring the show.
No,
but
that's
I would love
fine.
the question because he's a very good friend of mine. So don't go by. It's a lighter vein. I would love the question. I tell you one thing. I do not need to speak about the political career that Mamata has built for herself over 40 years, right? He is one of the senior most politicians of this country. He has been on the national scene since 1992. In fact, it was during Mr. Rajiv Gandhi's time that she became first the Minister of State barely at the age of 28 or 29 at that point of time. And then she became the three-time chief minister in between railway minister, and then since 2011 three-time chief minister of this country, beating the most dangerous political forces in this country thrice at her knees, and even 4 times, even in the election 4 months back, Mamata, I think beat them black and blue. So I mean, people in this country know that she is going to be one of the most formidable opposition faces in this country. Now, whether she would become the most prominent face or not, that is a call that has to be taken by all the political parties. My opinion, absolutely yes. Who can better be, pitted against Mr. Modi? Because it is Mamata who defeated Modi twice in Bengal.
But sir, your alliance partner, the TMC's alliance partner, the Congress does not feel so. Because when that question was asked to the Congress, Member of Parliament Manikam Tagore said, "What a joke." That was his response.
This is his problem. I don't know why the Manikam Tagore is known elsewhere in this country as Mamata is in every nook and corner in this country. I mean, but I'm not taking it seriously. For me, it will be a fascinating contest, but we have to prepare this ground for 2029 between one of the most formidable female politicians in the country after Mrs. Indira Gandhi. I repeat that. One of the most formidable female politicians after Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Mamata Banerjee was Mr. Narendra Modi. I'll be a fascinating contest that I would like to see.
Sure. So you believe that the TMC would be a more formidable front against the BJP than a Congress would? Is that why you want Mamata Banerjee to be the face?
I did not say that. I talked
I'm
about
asking
the
you.
leadership of. This is not possible in the sense that TMC has not spread its wing much beyond Bengal, except in Goa and in Meghalaya. So I'm not asking about that, but that's not the way you decide a leader. It's almost we are having a kind of presidential contest in this country. Mr. Modi versus who? In that respect, Mr. Modi versus Mamata Banerjee will be the most fascinating contest for me personally. What will be the
Mahima
ultimate
Singh, would
form
that be
will
agreeable to you? You had your hand up, so quick rebuttal before I get in the other two as well.
You see, Poonam, the beauty of India parties is that we have innumerous, formidable leaders. We have a strong array of leaders to watch out for, and surely Mamata Banerjee is one of those leaders. And in fact, we take pride in that. That we are an alliance that forcefully pushes people's agenda, people's issues in a unanimous voice. Respecting the federal structure of this country. So yes, of course, that's the beauty of the India bloc, and the BJP is bound to have a problem with that.
So RP Singh, there is no differences of opinion between the India bloc. In fact, there's not one leader that's taking on the BJP, there are multiple. And that's a strength, that's not a weakness as the BJP thinks it is.
Well, they have all the right to take up issues and take up issues in parliament and outside parliament also. But issue is, today's protest, please show us where is TMC in that protest. Why TMC was not protesting for issue which they want to rake up on the crony capitalism, or for that example, Mr. Adani or Adani group as such. But fact is that jitne sir utne muh, as many heads as many tongues they have. So that's how they have different voices when they speak. So the problem is not that. Problem is they have all the right to speak on whatever issue they want to. But there's no doubt that Mamata Banerjee has not lost election. I mean, I admit that. And whereas Rahul Gandhi has been losing election after election. So obviously she stands taller than Rahul Gandhi as far the alliance goes. I mean, one can see in the alliance party. It's not that I'm anyone to suggest who shall be the leader, but as a political student, as a political analyst, that's what is seen. But that's how the opposition is. That's how, for them, it's more targeting Prime Minister Modi than issues. And then, as far Parliament functioning goes, if you want to bring Jantar Mantar into the Parliament, then it won't function. Parliament has to function in a parliamentary norm. And they are speaking about Manipur. Last time Prime Minister spoke about Manipur, and they walked out. And in the last parliamentary session, and when he was speaking, they were chanting slogans in the well, ongoingly chanting slogans. I remember the scene where Prime Minister Modi ji offered some water to one of the leader of the opposition so that probably he can have a better throat to shout. So, but that's how the opposition is. I mean, let them come together on subjects, decide on subjects. Samajwadi party says that Sambal is a bigger issue. For them, yes, Sambal is a bigger issue because they have to target a particular vote bank.
But RP, in the end, the onus of letting the parliament function or ensuring that the parliament functions falls on the government of the day, which in this case is your party.
No, we want the parliament to function. Who is stopping? I mean, we are prepared to discuss Sambal also. We are prepared to, if they want to discuss Manipur again, we'll discuss Manipur also again. I mean,
but that's not what's being done, is the allegation. Even the constitution debate was only agreed upon yesterday after Om Birla, the Lok Sabha speaker, had to get all stakeholders on board after 1 week of washout.
So constitutional debate, had the constitutional debate started, then that would have let the path for other debates to happen. But they don't want to even have the constitutional debate.
No, that debate is going to happen. The dates are set for it next week. And today we did see business happen. We did see a bill being tabled by the Union Finance Minister. We did see business happen today after that meeting yesterday.
Poonam, wait. I mean, just wait. I mean, we'll see how do the opposition behave in that debate also. Because agenda is not discussing issues. Agenda is targeting Prime Minister Modi. Agenda is targeting the government. I mean, if they have to discuss, they can target the government, but with a valid ground. I mean, it's not that you stand up one morning and say, no, this is the subject which we will discuss. No. I mean, there's a procedure. There's a protocol for the parliament to function. There are rules for parliament to function. You can't throw the rules to the rule book to the dustbin and say, no, whatever we decide, we decide. Or whatever Rahul Gandhi decide. But this parliament can't be run by my way or highway system.
Sure, it's interesting because that's interesting, RP Singh, because that's exactly how it functioned, is what the Congress would say when the BJP was in opposition, and we've seen several instances of those. But Mahima Singh, yes, quick rebuttal, yes.
Yeah. You see, the BJP spokesperson seems not to be following the parliament sessions, because if he would have, then he would know that Shri K.C. Venugopal, our General Secretary organization, in fact, today showed in the parliament the rule book and read out from the rule book to the Speaker of the House and reminded him of when Srimati Sushma Swaraj was the LOP and we were in the government, and every time that a notice was procedurally issued, which in this case has been done more than just a couple of times in the past 1 week or so, and the government has only been looking away because the BJP's actions are elusive of its desire of an opposition-free India, of an opposition-free government. They don't want opposition. They don't want the opposition to raise the issues. The BJP spokesperson is saying that they discussed Manipur in the parliament and Mr. PM spoke on it. When Mr. Prime Minister spoke on Manipur, it was barely few seconds when he really spoke of Manipur. Apart from that, it was just a conundrum at play from Mr.
There was a
Modi.
discussion about
What has
Manipur
kept Mr.
and
Modi
PM
from
spoke on
visiting
Manipur.
Manipur?
What did you do?
What
You
has
walked
kept
out.
Mr.
You
Modi
created
from
ruckus in the
visiting
parliament.
Manipur?
Did you discuss
Honorable
Manipur? No.
LOP Shri
You never
Rahul
want to
Gandhi is
discuss
going to
Manipur as a
Sambal
subject.
tomorrow. Priyanka Gandhi ji is going to Sambal to visit the aggrieved families. What is keeping the Prime Minister from visiting Manipur, Sambal and other grief-stricken areas across the country where
Sure.
these riots have become common under the BJP rule? What is the Prime Minister waiting for?
Okay, let's not digress. Let's come back to the issue at hand, which is the parliament. And Karan Verma, as far as the optics go, while the opposition says that all's well, and you're reading too much in between the lines when there are no lines even to read, but as far as optics go, does this fare well for the opposition as far as wanting different things or wanting different leaders is concerned? Because ever since the India Bloc was formed, we've seen the kind of electoral results that the India Bloc, specifically the Congress, has seen. And it's downhill, unfortunately, for them.
So, Poonam, there's a reason why the Congress party today has become a political liability and has been reduced to the margins that it has been reduced to. It's a disruptionist party. Now, you have
he's entitled to have his opinion, ma'am. Let him finish
Poonam,
at least.
this sort of behavior
Karan
is
Verma,
not,
go ahead.
I patiently waited for my turn.
Yes.
Please.
Mahima Singh, let him finish, please.
Yeah.
What sort
They
of a
are
statement is that? I object.
That's his
I
opinion,
repeat it.
ma'am.
I double down on it.
He
You
can
are a
have his opinion.
disruptionist party.
We live in a democracy.
You
He's
are a
entitled to have his
party.
opinion.
Thank you
You
for
are a
reaffirming that.
Speak your language.
Mahima
If you
Singh,
speak your
please.
language,
Okay, I
accept
request
you.
everyone, RP Singh, I request everyone, please, let's keep this civil. Karan Verma, go ahead. I'll give everyone their time to rebut.
Yeah.
Karan Verma, go ahead.
So I will reiterate, Congress is a disruptionist party. Right from 2018, Poonam, we have to understand there's a pattern. First, it was Rafale, which was put in the bin by the Supreme Court. Then it was Pegasus. Again, the Supreme Court came out on it. They disrupted the House for that. Then it was BBC. After that, it was the Hindenburg report. Again, a Supreme Court constituted panel gave them a clean sheet and said that those who did short cells, there should be an investigation on them. So again and again, they've come up with these benign issues which do not matter to the common people, and they've disrupted the proceedings of the House. So of course, they are a disruptionist party, and the political parties around them now understand this. They've been rejected in Haryana. They've been rejected in Maharashtra. TMC is right in saying you cannot hold the parliament to ransom just because of one issue. There is some serious business that we need to discuss. And there's a reason why my friend, Mr. Mandal, just said that Mamata Banerjee could take on Mr. Modi. Of course, he's entitled to his opinion. After all, Mamata Banerjee has accomplished something in the political field. Nobody can dispute that. So has Akhilesh Yadav. He's been a CM as well. Samajwadi party also has a ground to show that. But look at how other political parties are treating the Congress. Jharkhand Mukti Morcha has clearly said, if you want the deputy CM place, go out and take a walk. TMC has cleared that we are looking for the LOP position. Omar Abdullah gave them one portfolio. They couldn't come together, said, okay, the door is waiting there. If you can't select a minister, no need to be a part of the government. So they've become a liability. AAP severed all ties with them after the Lok Sabha. Samajwadi party took over every seat in UP, did not even allow them to contest. So this is where the Congress is reduced to. They can mend their ways. and solve people's problems rather than holding the parliament to ransom, that it should be discussed under Article 267 only, rule number 267 only. You can't hold the parliament to ransom, and when discussion happens, you choose to walk out or resort to sloganeering. The people are watching and the people are angry with you. It's better you learn your lessons quickly.
Mahima Singh, go ahead.
Yeah. You see, the views of Mr. Author are rather askew, because when he talks about Pegasus, let me remind the country that Honorable Supreme Court wrote in its judgment that the government of the day did not cooperate in the investigation. It is very much out there for anybody who wishes to read that. Now, when
Rahul
he's talking
Gandhi
about...
did not hand over
Okay,
the
Karan
phone,
Verma,
by the way, ma'am.
let her finish. Karan Verma, let her
Gandhi did
finish.
not hand over the phone, just one point of order. That's
Okay,
all.
Karan
Please-
Verma, yeah.
Please go ahead.
I believe, you see, this resonance with the BJP's views, Poonam, is pretty obvious. You see, when people like the respectful panelists, put up their views on these shows, I think it becomes pretty obvious the place of the locus standi they are coming from. And when we are talking about the parliament today, when we are talking about raising the issues, we must remember this village in Maharashtra called Markadwadi. In Markadwadi, the villagers have come out and said that they want to conduct the elections by ballot. Now, you said earlier on your show, Poonam, that we live in a democracy. You were trying to remind me. Let me remind the panelists here and your viewers in the country, we are a democracy. And when villagers in Markadwadi, who are neither, they are not Congresses, they are citizens of this country just like you and I are. And when they come out, the administration in that village go and put up a curfew. So that is the kind of state of affairs we are subject to today, and which is why we are raising issues when Mr. Adani
And you're
is
going to the
indicted.
election
I'm
commission
sure-
for it. You went to the
I'm
Supreme
sure
Court for
your
it. The
honorable
Supreme Court
panelists-
also didn't entertain a petition that wanted going back to ballot
Can I-
papers.
Pegasus?
Can I
What
please make a
about
small point?
Pegasus? What about Pegasus, Poonam?
Sure.
Would you agree that
Sure.
the Supreme Court said that the government did not
Sure. So
cooperate
if you look
in
at
the
one
Pegasus
particular Supreme
investigation?
Court, if you look at one particular
Similarly,
Supreme Court order, then you should look at the other one as well.
Poonam,
The
can
The
I
ones that
please-
did not want you going back to the ballot paper.
The same Supreme Court
Absolutely.
called the same Supreme Court called the electoral bonds unconstitutional.
Sure.
The same electoral bonds which put Mr. Adani under the spotlight. The same
please,
Mr.
can I
Adani
respond to
who
this?
is indicted
Sure,
in
but
the
that's
US,
not the point
the
of
same Mr.
contention,
Adani
Mahima
whom the
Singh.
Prime
There
Minister
were
is protecting.
certain. Sure, that's still not the point of contention or the point
can
of
I make a
debate
small
at the
point?
moment. Yes, Karan Verma, 30 seconds, please.
Yeah. Poonam, that is the problem with the Congress. They start calling out names to anyone who talks about the country. I do not want the parliament to be stalled. You'll start calling the other person names, casting aspersions, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's the Election Commission. Problem with Congress is, ताउम्र यही गलती करती रही कांग्रेस, धूल उनके चेहरे पे है, वो आईना साफ
Again,
करते हैं.
freedom of expression,
You
sir.
get-
If you
you
have
get
the
crores of
right, if you
investment
have
to
the right
Adani
to
in
have your
state,
opinion, they have the
whether
right
it's
to their
Telangana,
opinion. Sure,
whether
they
it's
want to see
Telangana,
certain.
whether it's Chhattisgarh, we've
Right,
they
and that was
project to Adani,
really the point
and then they
that
are
was
casting
being
aspersions
made,
on
Mahima
Adani.
Singh, as far as the Congress's electoral graph is concerned, especially since the India Bloc was formed, and that's not something that only outsiders are seeing. Those within the India Bloc are also seeing it, which is why we're seeing the kind of chorus of making Mamata Banerjee the face of the alliance, or parties not wanting to toe the line on the issues that the Congress wants to head.
You see, when the respected panelist who spoke before me, he speaks, he forgets that the villagers of the village that I'm referring to are as much citizens of this country
Sure.
as he is or as anybody else is.
Absolutely.
So, you see, I would say
Have you heard him?
that
Uttamrao Jankar.
they should
Who's
not be
Uttamrao Jankar? Do you know him?
selective when they speak about.
Ma'am, do you know Uttamrao
Absolutely.
Jankar?
This is what we call
Absolutely.
disruption.
Answer, please.
Absolutely,
Question
and
is-
nobody should be selective.
Yes,
Many
yes,
within the
Gautam
India
Adani.
Bloc would also say that the Congress should not be selective and perhaps listen to
The
what
Congress
its
is
alliance
not-
partners are
no,
saying,
not
because
at
your
all.
alliance partners
We
are saying it out
we are
loud and
raising
clear,
our
ma'am.
voice. No,
But-
Poonam, we are raising our voice.
Sure.
We have been raising our voice against the Manipur violence, against Sambal violence. Today, the farmers are again approaching the capital. They
Right.
want to reach the parliament. They were
Right,
stopped
and
at
we would
UP
want
borders
exactly
today.
that. The voters
Haryana,
of this
they are
country would
still,
want the voice
protesting.
of the people
But
being
what the
heard in
government is
Parliament,
doing
and for
is
the
that
Parliament to function. Unfortunately, I'm completely
Poonam,
out
is
of
this
time.
government listening? Is this
Unfortunately, I'm
government
completely
listening?
out of time. RP Singh, last 30 seconds, please.
For the time.
Uttamrao Jankar, who's taking initiative for the ballot paper. It's not the people of the village. It's just a person who's lost election.
Sure.
NCP.
Sure. And he too is an Indian citizen. If he feels he's been wronged, he has legal recourse to do so. But that's not the, but that's sure, but that's not the point of discussion here, sir. The point was, as far as the India versus NDA fight goes, who stands where, especially in Parliament, and who is it going to be advantaged? Because like the Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister today said, that bills can be passed even without the opposition because the numbers still stand with the centre, but there has to be parliamentary procedure that's followed. Discussion and debate must take place in a healthy democracy, and that's really what every voter of this country wants as well. I have to leave it at that, and I thank all our panelists for joining us here on this edition. Unfortunately, I'm out of time and I have to slip into a quick break, but on the other side, we'll get you a sneak peek of whether or not there is a GST hike that is on the cards. Are your cigarettes, is your tobacco going to get dearer? We'll tell you. Thank you for staying with us. Even as the Parliament session is going, and we are expecting the GST Council to be meeting later this month, what we've learned is that a group of ministers is rationalizing GST rates. It's expected to recommend to the GST Council at least on 150 goods and services. As per sources, issues were discussed in this GOM rate rationalization that was chaired by Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar. The group of ministers agreed on several GST rates that were designed to simplify the framework and enhance revenue collection specifically. The report is going to be presented to the 55th GST Council meeting that's taking place in Jaisalmer on the 21st of this month. Now, the group of ministers have proposed increasing the tax on products such as aerated beverages, on cigarettes, other tobacco-related items. All of that will now go up from the current 28% to 35% slab. What could get costlier, like I said, is cigarettes, tobacco. The government may consider raising GST rate as part of an effort to curb consumption of cigarettes and tobacco, and of course to boost revenues both for the state and centre. Aerated drinks, soft drinks especially, could face a rate hike as well. Again, health concerns, rising obesity and diabetes is something that is being considered. Cosmetics, including beauty items, personal care goods may also see a GST rate hike. This will affect a wide range of products from skincare to makeup to fragrances. Luxury goods such as high-end watches, designer apparel, premium electronics and expensive automobiles could also see increased rates. Now, these items that are often seen as discretionary or non-essential are targeted as a way to boost government revenues from high-income consumers. But there is some amount of silver lining, some good news, because some things could get cheaper, including packaged water. It could see a reduction in its GST rate. It could be lowered, and it's aimed at making access to clean, potable water more affordable, especially in regions which often face water scarcity. The government could reduce GST on bicycles, especially non-motorized ones. This one's likely to be a part of a broader strategy as far as encouraging eco-friendly transportation is concerned. Exercise books, other essential stationery items that are used in schools could also see a GST cut, a relief for families and for children. A GST reduction for everyday items like toiletries, cleaning products, household essentials could also be seen. This, of course, is all in the realm of proposals. They could be or could not be taken up by the GST Council. Now, there are multiple reasons why the GST Council could be looking at these hikes. One of the reasons is, of course, that the GST structure has undergone several changes and there are adjustments that are made periodically. The current rate structure is seen as needing a restructuring to address inefficiencies, loopholes and distortions that have emerged over time, specifically as far as luxury items go. GST rate cuts on certain goods and services have led to revenue losses for the government, especially when they're cut. So this strategy allows the government to plug that particular gap without burdening the lower middle class or the middle class as far as essential goods are concerned. The GST system in the current form is still evolving. There are several sectors that have been contributing less than expected is what many believe, and there are mismatches, there's even tax evasion from certain sectors. That is something that could be addressed with this particular hike. So will the GST Council take up this proposal, increase any of these rates? We'll find out later this month. For now, slipping into a quick break, but on the other side, we have a Plain Speak exclusive coming up for you, because even as Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Hamas over release of hostages, how does Israel view this? I speak to Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for staying with us. You're on Plain Speak. Amid the ongoing war in West Asia, President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, has issued a stern warning to Hamas. He says if Gaza hostages were not freed before his inauguration, there would be hell to pay. He's talking about hostages that were taken as far as the October attack last year is concerned in the Middle East. He further added that those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Trump's threat comes hours after Hamas released a hostage video of Eden Alexander, who's serving in the Israeli military. He was taken hostage by Hamas. He is a dual citizen, which is why this video has been released to the United States as well. This was filmed under apparent duress. Alexander calls on Trump to work on negotiating his freedom along with several other hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office so far has declined a comment on that particular video, but they have been saying that they are fighting for the release of over 100 hostages that remain in Hamas's captivity. The country's president welcomed Trump's comments in a social media post, though.
They gathered in Central Park as they have nearly every Sunday since October 7th, but this time the crowd was larger than usual. Everyone rallying around Adi Alexander. Saturday, Hamas released this video of his 20-year-old son, Eden.
My name is Eden Alexander.
Adi tells me seeing the footage, while exciting, was extremely disturbing.
That's the first time we saw Eden in a year. We had some signs of life.
Adi says it's clear from the video, every day in captivity is an eternity of suffering, both physically and emotionally.
No father should hear his child plead for his life like that.
A dual citizen, Eden grew up in New Jersey and after graduating from Tenafly High School, joined the IDF. Adi says his son loves both countries and strongly believes in protecting Israel.
We were very proud of this decision, but found himself in the wrong place in the wrong time.
At his post near the Gaza Strip. It's been more than 420 days. Officials believe 101 hostages are still in Gaza.
Now, Donald Trump, the president-elect, has sent a stern warning to Hamas. This comes right after that video, like I just pointed out. He said that there will be hell to pay if hostages are not released. Hostages that were taken by Hamas as far as the October 2023 attack is concerned. Free these hostages before I take over as president, and that happens in January for Donald Trump. The ultimatum that Donald Trump issued was also that those responsible will be hit harder than ever seen before. Now, Donald Trump's election is seen as a victory as far as Israel is concerned. Israeli army has released footage over the last few days showing the kind of strikes that they've taken as far as eliminating Hamas is concerned. Until Hamas is eliminated, this war will not end, has been the clear message from the Israeli side. But the war has been going on for far too long. Many of the countries that first backed the Israeli offensive have also started to now sound out a note of caution. For how long is this war in West Asia going to continue? That's a question that many are asking. Now, another 2 months or so, a month and a half at least, for Donald Trump to take to the Oval Office once again. Before that happens, is there going to be any change as far as the West Asia conflict is concerned? Are we going to be seeing any sort of change in strategy from the Israeli side? That's something that will have to be seen. But as far as the fight against Hamas is concerned, it's in fact not just limited to Hamas anymore. Israel seems to be fighting a war on multiple fronts, including with Hezbollah. A ceasefire that wasn't, as many would call it, that's being discussed as well. There's criticism of violations of ceasefire and allegations of those that have come to the fore from both sides. So far, since the war began, since the conflict between Israel and Hamas began, the casualties have been very high. The United Nations has often called this an apocalyptic situation as far as Gaza is concerned. Syria, too, has been dragged in as far as this entire conflict goes. Like I said, it's not just a fight that Israel is fighting with Hamas anymore, with a terror organization like Hamas, but it's a multi-frontal fight that Israel seems to be fighting on. Joining me on this broadcast, Sharon Haskell, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. You know, US President-elect Donald Trump has set this deadline. It's something that you've welcomed on your social media as well. But do you trust a terror organization like Hamas to honor any deadline of that sort?
Obviously, Hamas is a terrorist organization. One fact is true. Until now, with the entire international community and the pressure that they have put on Israel, did not lead Hamas to agree to a ceasefire. I mean, think about it. A month ago, there were 3 proposals for ceasefire. The Egyptian one, the Qatari one, the Russian one. Israel said yes to all 3 propositions, and Hamas refused. I know for a fact that when the future president of the United States, Donald Trump, has drawn the line in the past, by the way, that is also the message that he had sent to the Lebanese. It's been a year that the international community could not bring a diplomatic agreement to the conflict in the northern border with Hezbollah. And the message that was sent from Trump was that they do not want him to get into office before we arrived into a diplomatic solution, into a ceasefire with Lebanon. And look, within a few weeks, Hezbollah was pressured into a ceasefire agreement. I believe that that can be the case as well with Hamas. I think that they know that he's serious when he is drawing a red line. I think that that will put pressure on Hamas. And I think that it should also indicate the international community that if they really want a ceasefire in Gaza, they should address the pressure they are putting on Hamas, because they are the one who are refusing it.
Speaking of that ceasefire, and I'll come to that, but I want to ask you about Hamas and the hostage crisis specifically, because over 100 still remain in captivity. Far into a year on the war began, many even within Israel are criticizing you that the government has taken the eye off the ball, which is the release of these prisoners. Because Hamas has said there's going to be no agreement on prisoner exchange as far as your offensive in the Palestinian territory ends. While Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, says that the war is not over until Hamas is eliminated. So then are these hostages sort of sitting ducks? That's what many are asking. Are they collateral damage that Israel seems to have forgotten about?
Look, the reason why we are in Gaza is to bring back our family members home. Everything we have done in the recent year was to bring them back to their loving families. And we need to remember, we are fighting a monster, a devil of an enemy who is committing crimes against humanity, who have massacred babies, who raped little girls, who burned elderlies. That is the face of our enemy. And they're not backing down. They are using Palestinians as human shields. They don't care for the life of Israelis, but the Hamas don't care for the lives of Palestinians either. And that's why they've been using them and abusing them as human shield and abusing them to deteriorate their humanitarian situation. So there's going to be pressure on Israel, and they understand that. And I think that it is pretty clear by now that Israel, that has agreed numerous times, including what I told you before, just last month, we've agreed to 3 different proposals from 3 different countries, and we said yes, and Hamas said no. And the international community and the people who are trying to negotiate in between as well. The pressure has to be addressed to the aggressor. We will not stop until our family members are back home. This is our goal. This is our main point. We need to make sure that our communities, our children, and our cities are safe again, and that Hamas doesn't pose a threat, and we have to bring them back. I think that's something normal. I think that if your family would have been held captive in the hands of a monstrous enemy, you would do everything in your capability to bring them back. And that's exactly what Israel is doing.
But Ms. Haskell, you know, several of the countries that stood by you, that put all their weight behind you right after that October attack, have also started to now sound a note of caution. Many within Israel, a former Israeli defense minister also has come out and accused the Netanyahu government of war crimes. How do you respond to that?
Look, you know, those allegations are completely baseless. There's a big political debate internally in Israel. In Israel, politics have been a turmoil for the last 3 years. And I know that many people are trying to gain political gain over, you know, baseless blood libels that are being spread. And, you know, if it serves their political cause, it's very sad and I'm very disappointed. But it is a political move and not more than that. Israel has provided numerous, you know, the level, the standard that Israel has reached in this urban warfare in regards to humanitarian aid and to civilian casualty is unprecedented. No other army, not the Indian army, not the American army, not any European army that would go into an urban war would be able to reach that threshold. And it's very sad that Israel keeps on being singled out, pointed out. I think in a lot of the pinpoints specifically about it, it's a political issue. Look, the enemy that we are fighting is Iran, and Iran has a lot of political influence, economical influence, and we understand that. But at the end of the day, us, as a democratic, liberal society, people like us, and like the Indian people who value life, who value freedom, this is time where we are fighting a war against the Islamization, the attempt of Islamization of the world. Radical Islam is not just a story tale. Radical Islam is an imminent threat to our society. You have experienced it in India. We've seen what happened in Bangladesh. We are experiencing it with Hamas. We are experiencing it through Hezbollah. And it's not just limited to our region. This is spreading through Africa. Hezbollah, which is the army of Iran, has already spread in Central and South America. Hezbollah is the biggest illegal weapons and drug traffickers. They're controlling the trafficking routes in Central and South America. What does Hezbollah has to look for, the Iranian army in Central and South America, if it's not to pose a threat on America? And so you need to understand, and I think that the Indian people needs to understand as well, we have to stand together in solidarity against terrorism, against radical Islam, and against groups and entities who are radicalizing populations.
But speaking of Hezbollah, like you've been saying, that it's not just a war with Hamas anymore. Of course, Israel has been fighting a multi-frontal war, so to say. Less than a week since that ceasefire pact came into being, or many would say a ceasefire that wasn't, because we've seen violations from both sides. Both sides seem to say the other one is the aggressor. What goes on after this then? What next?
No, I mean, the exact opposite. I mean, there was a violation, but the violation was with Hezbollah. And we are actually fulfilling the agreement and what is written there. We said that Hezbollah, it's written in the agreement, Hezbollah cannot go south of the Litani River. And our duty is to enforce that until the mechanism that we've built is going into place. So matter of fact, what Israel is doing is enforcing the ceasefire that Hezbollah is violating by going down to the southern area armed. We have one of the sections speaks that we will not let them be armed again to accumulate that amount of arsenal. And so, you know, it's very sad if some people are trying to portray it, but matter of fact is Hezbollah is violating the ceasefire, going down south of the Litani with weapons, and we are enforcing it. And we said in the beginning, when we signed the agreement, we will not go back to the 6th of October where Hezbollah was building its power on our border and we didn't do anything and the international community didn't do anything. If there's a violation now, we will enforce it. We will not go back and put our community under threat, and that has to be clear.
Ms. Haskell, one last question before I let you go. We're going to be seeing Donald Trump's return to the White House in less than 2 months now. Do you see that changing the course of the conflict that we've seen? Do you see that having any effect on how Israel is taking this forward?
I can tell you this. Trump is a great friend to our country. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He signed the Abraham Accord peace agreement. He's brought a lot of stability and prosperity to our region, not just to Israel, but to many countries around, against a violent enemy, against Iran. And it made a difference. And I think that since he was elected, the message that he sent to Lebanon actually brought that deal. He's not even in office, and his effect are already showing signs in our region. I think that his statement yesterday will also, and I hope so, also have a major effect on what is happening in Gaza in regards to Hamas too.
Well, we do hope that this war does come to an end, the multi-frontal war that Israel seems to be fighting. It's not just for the interests of Israel, for the region of West Asia, but for the world as a whole. Sharon Haskell, thank you so much for speaking with us. Always a pleasure. With that, it's a wrap from my side here on this edition of Plain Speak. Anand Narasimhan joins you next.
Greenlam Laminates presents CNN News 18 Primetime Studio.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan, and we are coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Greenlam Laminates. Viewers, the evidence and turn of events points to absolute Hindu messiah in Bangladesh. Lawyers refuse to appear for former ISKCON leader Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari during the bail hearing, following which the Chattogram court has now adjourned proceedings, and the court has fixed the next date of hearing for the 2nd of January 2025. So for now, 1 more month, Chinmoy Krishnadas Prabhu Brahmachari will be incarcerated. Now, since the Hindu monk's arrest, there has been outrage among Hindus not just across Bangladesh, Bharat, but also the world over.